Yes, we're live. So, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to host this webinar on this very important event that will be starting next week, which is the COP21. Yeah, I guess it's more exciting than the webinar we're hosting, but we hope that this will be a great opportunity for you to get to know more about climate change, about IFMSA's involvement in climate change, and the different areas that are in relation to the issue we'll be talking about. And we have very good speakers today that will be introducing step by step. We'll be having some IFMSA delegates to the COP21, namely Line from Denmark, Benedetta from Italy, and Alice from Australia. And we just have Kit, who just joined us from Canada, and he'll be introducing himself as well. Then we have three external speakers joining us today, and I'll be introducing them very quickly. So we have Sabrina Marquand, who's one of the French climate change enthusiasts, and she's been involved in climate change since a couple of years, and she has been the UNFCCC Yongo focal point, which is the youth constituency within the United Nations Framework for Climate Change Convention. And she has been once a French youth delegate within one of the COPs that I don't remember which one of them. Perhaps you can tell us. And lastly, she's been involved in different areas around climate change and the global processes that are around it. Then we'll have Isabel Braithwaite from the UK, who's a medical student, and she's the project officer for the Global Climate and Health Alliance, which is organizing an awesome campaign currently ongoing called Our Climate, Our Health, and she'll be telling us more about it. She'll be also in the COP21. And lastly, we'll be having Enrique Martua. I hope that I pronounced it well. He's a coordinator of the National Climate Agendas project for Fundación Ambiente y Recursos Naturales in Argentina, and he was a coordinator for Climate Action Network Latin America since 2011 until 2014. And he focuses a lot on mitigation and agriculture issues, and we'll be happy to hear more about it from him later on. So I'll be giving the floor to you if we can do a quick round of introduction to get to know you a bit more. I'm Skander Safi, and I'm the IFMSA Liaison Officer for Public Health Issues. I'll be heading the IFMSA delegation for the COP21. We'll be having seven people in the delegation, and we have different tasks and different activities that we'll be involved in. And I hope that you'll be very much engaged with us. Feel free to join us in our IFMSA event on Facebook that I'll be putting on the Google event. And if you have any question during this event, feel free to post it as a comment in the Google event again. So starting with a round of introduction, if you can say just what does climate change means to you, and how have you been acquainted to the climate change issues in general? So we'll be starting with Alice from the left. Yeah. Cannot hear you, Alice, even though you're unmuted. Yeah, perhaps you can fix it out, and we'll be getting back to you later. Yeah. Okay. Benedetta, would you like to go next?
Okay, it's my turn.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi to everybody. I'm Benedetta. I'm from Italy, from the north of Italy, and I'm so proud and also too excited to be a part of the IFMSA delegation. I've started working in climate change since 2 years with my NMO in Italy, and I'm so, how can I say, I think that I don't want to be common and banal, but I think that climate change is very important. And we have to do something, and we have to start from our generation, and also we have to sensibilize our fellows and our partners in university and also in our work, because I think that we as health workers have a big role to play in it. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Benedetta. Alice, would you be able to fix it? Okay, it seems you're still muted. Okay, so I think we'll be moving ahead with
Can you hear me now, Scan?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Good. Can you see me?
Yes, we do.
Good. Okay. So I'm Alice, and I am from AMSA, Australia, and I'm also part of the delegation for COP21. I've been involved with climate change and health ever since becoming a medical student back in 2010, when I first became aware of the Lancet Commission report that was published in 2009, saying that climate change was the biggest health threat of the 21st century. And that kind of basically it married my two interests of global health and also interest of the environment. And I realized that that was the key issue that I had to work on, because it is the biggest issue of our time.
Thank you, Alice. Enrique, would you like to go ahead?
Sure. Well, I've been working for climate change since I'm a little kid. I always been interested in environmental and global issues. And I always liked diplomacy at some extent, but I always loved the freedom of being and fighting for something that something that you really care about, and that's why I got involved in UNFCCC negotiations. Nowadays, I work a lot in international arena, but it's always nice to focus as well and have that sense of what's happening in the field, in the countries, and in with society as well.
Thank you, Enrique. Izzy? If you can unmute yourself.
Great, thanks. Yeah, so for me, I guess something quite similar to Alice, really. I'd sort of always been quite interested in human development, I guess, and I went into medicine originally because I kind of wanted to work for Médecins Sans Frontières or something. And then I think I kind of became increasingly aware that actually climate change puts all of that at risk, and that it's not something kind of separate from the issues I care about in terms of health and like poverty, but it's part of the same picture. And I felt that it was kind of really under-recognized, and like at its heart, it's very unjust what's happening with climate change, because the people being most affected didn't cause it. So that was kind of the thing that pushed me to want to get more involved in that.
Thank you, Isabel. Moving ahead to Kit, can you explain to us what does climate change mean to you in 1 minute?
Sure. So I came from a research background. My research was mostly with Aboriginal people in Canada. Sorry, I should say I'm from Canada, and I'll be joining the IFMSA delegation. And so my research background is with Aboriginal peoples in Canada, particularly Northern Indigenous, and how their cultural, health, and economic perspectives and their experiences are shaped by fossil fuel developments. So coming into the climate change conference with IFMSA, I'm quite passionate about like advocating for health. Yeah, I don't really have too much to say.
Thank you, Kit. Yeah, Lina, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, hi everyone, my name is Line and I'm from IFMSA Denmark. And I've always been pretty concerned with like climate change, but haven't started working in it until 1.5 years ago, approximately, when I was at a workshop at a pre-GA with IFMSA. And I think that for me was the first time I kind of realized what my role in this could be, and saw the opportunities and like the ways that I could try to approach this problem. And so since then, I've been working with it both on a local level as well as attending the ADP session this October with IFMSA, which was really interesting, and now I'm really motivated to continue this work for the COP21.
That's great. Thank you, Lina. And yeah, last but not least, Sabrina. If you can turn on your microphone.
Yeah. Yeah, so hi everyone, and thanks Skander for the invitation. Well, me, I have been involved on climate change since Bali, actually, and I have been following the climate change negotiation from different aspects and from different point of view, and I have been currently following concretely from the inside the negotiation since Doha. I'm really interested, like, I think this topic is one of the biggest issue, but it's also like one of the rare challenge in which you can also define the word you want for the future. So like there is like so much connection with other and different topics that is really like to fight climate change, you really have to have like a big picture on everything to make sure like everything move forward on a good way, and that is I really love this aspect of the climate change. I mean, like we can work on different aspects, but everything is really connected, and this connection I really like. I'm really enjoy this connection, and working on this topic make me like really like creative, but also like ask me to know like to have like the big picture and to know different topics, and is what I really like.
Thank you, Sabrina. Just for those who are quite new to the Conference of Parties and how it happens every year at a different country. So can you please tell us like when was Bali and Doha?
Yeah, so Bali was in 2007, and Doha was in 2012.
Great, yeah. So yeah, some of us are quite newbies, so perhaps we were not that involved in climate change back then. Okay, so moving on to the next question, I'll be asking you mainly to some of you who are already involved in IFMSA or have heard of what IFMSA is doing, but also in relation to the youth involvement or how youth are being impacted by climate change. Can you tell us a bit more of your perspective into like how the youth are being impacted in general by climate change, and how can they act upon it, whether by advocating for specific policies to be implemented or by raising awareness on it? If you can share with us your experience, that would be really good. So who would like to start?
Well, I can say something.
Yeah.
So I was recently at a conference in Norway for the Nordic IFMSA countries, and one of the things we discussed in terms of working as young people on a local level was the fact that because it might seem like everything is happening sort of at the COP and the political level, and a lot of things do happen there, but also the important thing is that the politicians that we vote for is the people who will eventually sit and negotiate. And so sort of raising awareness in the general public is sort of helping to phrase climate change as a political issue. So like creating awareness locally will also sort of impact the way that your society and your country will work with climate change. And I think that's an interesting way as youth to sort of see climate change as a very local issue as well.
Thank you, Lina. Anyone else who would like to present his or her perspective?
Did you want me to talk about the IFMSA with the workshops
Okay.
and policy statements and that kind of thing?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, is that?
Yeah.
Or is that a separate point?
No. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So something that we've been doing with IFMSA and also with Lena's mentioned as well with different national organisations is running workshops with other medical students as well as engaging other young people outside the medical field with workshops to engage them in the issue, to give them some background in the science of climate change, but also to learn that climate change isn't just an environmental issue, that it is a health issue, and that there are benefits of additional co-benefits for health for taking action on climate change, and also building capacity and providing people with skills such as public speaking, engaging the media, and community organising. And other things that IFMSA and national member organisations are quite involved in, as well as advocacy. So we, with IFMSA and AMSA Australia, for example, we have policy statements looking specifically at climate change and making a number of different calls for governments and for other bodies, including the health sector, to do various things to address climate change. We're also engaging people through the World Health Organization. So medical students have completed internships with WHO, so I'm here at WHO at the moment and working on engaging countries as well through learning about the health impacts of their own particular countries and keeping track of data and looking at how their policies and how that's impacting on health.
Thank you, Alice. Perhaps moving on to Enrique, if you can tell us a bit about the youth groups in Latin America that you've been in touch with in terms of activities in relation to climate change.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah, definitely. There are quite a few movements. There are at least two that I can speak of. One is in Argentina. The name is Aclimatando. That's a group of people that got together after the global power shift that 350.org organized. So they started campaigns in Argentina. They got together. They organized different media activities, social media activities, and they're quite involved in all the spaces that are available for civil society participation. This group is quite recent. They have, I think, something like 3 years already. And then the other group is a broader group of Latin America youth, which is CLIC. Sabrina knows them quite well. They have been involved in quite several activities since 2013, if I'm not wrong. And they developed quite a lot of activities, meetings in Mexico, in Colombia, where they started a lot of work. Sabrina, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were related to climates as well, which is like more global movement of youth, and they organize capacity building activities, and they organize different activities in the COPs or in the lead up to COPs. They work with universities. They try to work with the broader movement. And then in Brazil, a very important group is Engajamundo. It's an NGO actually in Brazil, and I had the pleasure to work with them this year in an activity that tried to build up the capacities of the youth in Brazil to work towards a new, a more prepared civil society youth groups in order to create advocacy activities and to strengthen the youth movement there. Those are at least the groups that I can remember right now. I know there were quite a few groups in Peru that were working last year's particular in the lead up to COP20. So I know.
Great. So I think that there's also a great opportunity to link up those groups with medical students that are based in Latin America so that they can increase the power of such movements overall. And maybe linking with how Sabrina is involved with climate and the different activities that you are organizing. Perhaps you can tell us more about it, Sabrina.
Yeah. So I'm also part of climate. So yeah. So climate is an international think and do tank, and we do like research on climate change. The idea is to have we have international networks of students and young people, and we do international and interdisciplinary research on different topics. But we also do like some workshop at the international level, and we also launch a project which is called COP in My City, and the idea is to do some simulation of negotiation and to give the opportunity for young people to better understand the UNFCCC process in a different way. And so that is what we do at the local level and at the national level. And climate is also part of, as you guys, part of Yungo, which is a constituency on young people engage on the UNFCCC process. And so the idea is to do some lobbying during the negotiation to promote our ideas and our goal, to make sure our idea is represented in the text, in the final outcome, and to give the opportunity for young people, and especially new young people who come and arrive each year at the UNFCCC process. We organize each year what we call the Conference of Youth, and the idea is to gather young people, and especially those who will be accredited and following the current negotiation, to better understand the process, but also to share their project and to reinforce their capacity. So the idea is to share our project, our knowledge on specific topic, and create synergy and to better improve our knowledge on the climate change in general, but also on the climate change negotiation process.
That's really good. Thank you, Sabrina. We'll be able to know more about the COP11 later on, but thank you for giving us a good perspective on how these youth movements are going on, and especially the COP simulations, or the COP in My City project that has grown a lot, and we've been trying to get inspired as well from the IFMSA side, where we organized some simulations recently during our IFMSA meetings, and one of them was the Global Health Summer School that happened in Barcelona, and I think Benedetta and I don't know, Izzy, were you there as well? No? Okay. So perhaps Benedetta, can you tell us a bit about your experience in the Global Health Summer School and the COP simulation? Yeah.
Yes, this summer in July, the IX Barcelona NMO of IFMSA organized this summer school, Global Health and Climate Change and Health. And it was really interesting, first of all, because we were not only medical students, but there were also students from anthropology, psychology, nursing, and also other students. And it was, so in the first part of the summer school was more like a workshop and activities, and it was really interesting to speak and compare experience, and also from different point of view about all the same topic. And then the last 3 days were more focused on the COP simulation, and it was really interesting because we were the most part of us was a state. So, for example, I was Russian. It was really interesting to be Russian. And then there was the media, also the WHO and the WTO, and then there was Yango and other characters, very important. And we start to think about COP. Yes, we simulate the COP using the agreement of Lima 20. And it was really hard for me, for example, I can say my experience, it was really hard to be myself and contemporary to be also Russia, because I was split into different characters, and so it was interesting from one part, but really hard. And this from this moment started my interest, to know more about COP, because I just know what COP was before, but this is my real first COP, so I'm really curious to know how it works.
That's really good. Thank you, Benedetta. And we see that we are trying to have more ideas on what does the COP look like, and moving ahead to the fact that all of us will be at COP21, and each and every one of us has his or her different expectations and objectives that we want to achieve. So perhaps if we want to hear from you guys, what kind of expectations do you have for this COP21? How is this momentum being created around, surrounding you, whether if you're working in an organization or in your own country, if you're facing specific challenges? We'd love to hear from you. Perhaps Izzy, if you would like to share your experience. If you can unmute yourself.
I didn't hear all of the questions.
Sure.
Because
so
I lost
if you can share with us your expectations on COP21 and how what can be what are your objectives for this COP21, or what do you think is this momentum being created around this event?
Yeah, so I'm really kind of looking forward to it and interested to see how it goes, really. I've been to one COP before, which was in Warsaw, and I've been kind of involved from back in London for a couple of others, sort of talking to the people that were going and helping out from home. So I guess my experience of it before, definitely it's quite a kind of overwhelming place, I think, when you first get there and when you're not familiar with how everything works. And I would say not to be put off by that for the people for whom it's their first COP. And it's quite easy, I think, also to be to get really focused on kind of tiny areas of detail and then forget a bit about what the whole picture is. I suppose I'm sort of more focused on the kind of public communication side of things, and trying to help get health spokespeople together, helping to organize the GCHA's Climate and Health Summit, rather than so much focusing on sort of textual negotiations. Partly because I think a lot of that's probably kind of relatively difficult to influence at this stage. A lot of that's now kind of decided. And probably the most important thing in terms of this COP, obviously it's hugely important that we get a good deal, and one that, you know, everyone can kind of agree on. But I think it's also really important that as civil society, we don't sort of tell the media or tell the world, oh, it's all a big failure, they've let us all down again, it's Copenhagen Mark II, because I think that would be kind of really really unhelpful, and I don't think that it will be. I mean, obviously they're not at the point where we need them to be at, and so we do need ambition to keep kind of increasing over time. We need a mechanism for that to happen through, but I think it's quite important that it isn't just seen by people who aren't really engaged in the like detail of it, seen as a failure, because that won't help us to kind of get where we need to be in the future. What we need people to kind of understand is we're part of the way there, we're not the whole way there, and what we have to do as citizens is to put pressure on our governments back home. We have to make sure that they actually sort of are held accountable to the things that they have committed, and that where they're not doing enough, we put more pressure on them and we make them do more. So I think that's sort of the view that I'm going into COP with. And yeah, I think from a health point of view, it's quite exciting. There's lots and lots of health professionals and students coming. There's lots of health events going on, and I think health is kind of more recognised as something that's really important when you're trying to tackle climate change. That you're factoring in, the health impacts and the health co-benefits of mitigation. So I think from a health point of view, it's going to be an interesting conference.
Thank you, Izzy, for sharing your perspective. I'm not sure if everyone agrees with Izzy saying that it might be too late to put health in the negotiations again and in the text. Anyone who might disagree or have any other point of view? Anyone? Oh.
Well,
Yeah.
if I may, I think it's nothing is impossible. If this is like the UNFCCC, people always says, or the parties always says, this is a party-driven process. So if parties decide tomorrow that they want to throw everything away and start over, they can do that. And if parties decide to open up the text and include health, they can do that. Now, how the dynamics are developing during the year, we actually have seen that the last session, parties actually open up the text and include a lot more text. So that is not impossible. The thing is, you have to make sure that you have a party that can actually insert that piece of text. So that's now what you can do if you want to be strategic about it, is to find hooks in the text that link to what you are actually advocating for, and try to suggest in a way that your issue or your area is actually reflected. That would be a way that you can actually insert and make sure that your priority area is reflected, but without actually saying you have to insert this whole new text in here, which diplomats would find quite hard to take forward, because it's not. You have to remember always that this is a diplomat's discussion, and whatever you insert will probably come with a cost, and will come with a negotiation. So that is important to keep in mind whenever you want to advocate for something in the negotiation, and you have to make sure that you have a lot of understanding of that text, where so you actually can find where it's more suitable for that issue that you're interested in, fits the best. Like, it doesn't make any sense, like, for instance, to put it in the preamble, because that would just be a preamble. No action will be taken forward. So it is important because it's the preamble, but it's not actually an action point. So you might want to see it, I don't know, maybe in the adaptation section, maybe, in a place where you actually find it more suitable for the result you want to see down the road. So my suggestion in that case, if your idea goes to have text on health in the new agreement, is try to find in that text what would be the best place to do it. Taking by granted that the chances to actually concrete something like that change are not like super high, right? So you have to, unfortunately, when we are in this side of the table, we know that our chances are little, and we have to do a lot of effort if we want to see changes. And even when we talk, like, for instance, I coordinate the mitigation working group in Cannes International. So even huge issues, not saying that health is not, but saying that, those issues that everybody talks about, like, I don't know, the long-term goal or the how is the commitments or the cycles where people will review, parties will review their commitments, which everybody is talking about, even to put things there is actually a big issue, and is super difficult to do, because you have to create strategies and you have to keep pushing it as much as you can. So I don't want to be, I don't want to be negative, and I don't want to discourage people on doing it, because it's actually totally the opposite. But you have to be aware of what are the difficulties that you will have down the road when you want to achieve that.
Thank you, Enrique. And I think we have been digging into this since quite a while, and health has been put in and out at several times, and there's been some frustration that was shared. And perhaps Lina, who attended the last ADP session in Bonn in October, can share some of it, especially in relation to the suggestions or the surgical insertions that that were put back then. Lina, would you like to tell us more about it?
Yes, sure. So going into the last ADP, there was a few mentions of health in the text that were then sort of removed quite quickly in the very, very short version that we had started the meeting with. And then came the surgical insertions, as they were called, which we medical students found pretty funny. We made a sign saying, "Do you need help with your surgical insertions?" So basically, sort of the parties demanded that the text be reopened in order for them to submit proposals. And of course, this was a major opportunity for us to sort of try and advocate for putting health back in the text. And the way we approached this was to sort of, instead of going up to people and saying, "Hey, what about including health?" try to make it very concrete and sort of look through the entire agreement and sort of worked on where do we see health being input in the text, both as mentioning health, but also, as you said, Enrique, it's not all about adding health in the preamble. It's much more important to have an action point on it. And we discussed as well to just have articles that promote good health. It doesn't necessarily need to state the word health for it to be relevant. And so we made a bunch of suggestions that we thought would be good to include, and then we approached countries to sort of speak very concretely, because it was very much text-based negotiations, and we did manage to get one party to sort of put in our suggestion for the text. Unfortunately, it wasn't backed by enough countries, so it was a shame. But definitely, it is a frustrating process. But I think, to me, it sort of proved that it can be done, and people will occasionally listen to you, which was also a really good experience. But yeah, definitely it's a challenging thing to try and do.
What about your expectations for COP21? Anything that you're looking for?
Well, I certainly hope that we sort of will have more time on the ground at COP than at ADP, since the negotiations were closed for observers. So I'm really hoping we'll be able to follow the negotiations more clearly, because that might make it easier for us to know who we can approach and who is likely to share our interests. But other than that, I'm just hoping to be able to continue the work. We did get a few contacts at the ADP and talked to a lot of people, and I really hope we're able to keep working with those people and approach more people and sort of build on the, however small, momentum we started at the ADP.
Yeah, thank you, Lina. And in terms of ambition, perhaps we have a very strong example over here. It's the Canadian example in how we're aiming for Canada to champion the climate change negotiations in many areas. Perhaps, Kit, you would like to share your perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, Canada has not had a stellar record. The last few COPs has been definitely more antagonistic than proactive. But we have a new government, and things are looking good, at least for Canada. There was news on the weekend that one of the provinces has plans to cap the total amount of emissions from the oil sands, which is that's been a major stumbling block for Canada's climate commitments in the past. And I think that with those sort of provincial contributions, that our national commitments can really change. And I think it's a sign for hope for COP that good things can come out of it, because even at the last minute we can see changes from countries that could add up to something significant if they play them right. And I think Canada's in a good point to leverage new commitments against other countries' contributions and hopefully get a little bit more out of the international partners.
Yeah, hopefully we're aiming for that, and I hope that we'll be getting in touch with them to express what we want as well to be added in the or as suggestions to be added in the text. So we'll be moving forward to the next topic, which are the different areas that are around the climate change issues, and some of them are already contained as sections within the climate change convention that is to be adopted in Paris. So starting with some of them, which is one of them, which is mitigation, and how perhaps we can link it to the health issue. I know that Enrique has great experience in the topic of mitigation. Perhaps if you can talk a little bit about it, and then we can try to see how it can be linked to health and health co-benefits in general.
Hey, so on mitigation for the COP, you mean, right?
Yeah.
So in terms, what we will be looking for in COP21 is to have this agreement. This agreement needs to include a bold mitigation action plan in there. We have to remember that this agreement will start in 2020, and we still don't know if it will finish in 2030, if it will finish in 2050, or if we'll never finish. So that's one important thing about the deal. That also has related to that is the long-term goal. What's the long-term objective that parties will actually work with? It's not the same if parties will set a target that says will be 0 emissions by 2050 or 0 emissions by 2100. Those two targets mean total different things. So they both would go into an emission reduction trajectory, but one has a stronger ambition and the other one is just like, take your time to do it. So that's one part of the mitigation section that is really important, because it will define as well the level of ambition of the rest of the actions, the things that have to be decided. The other thing is, how are we going to deal with the commitments? So those commitments that parties have done already, those national contributions, will there be a review every 5 years? Would that be every 10 years? The other thing would be what one is when parties will make new commitments and when parties will review those commitments to make sure that those were enough or not. And the other and the final part that actually comprises all of it is an ambition mechanism. How you make sure that every commitment that you take is actually higher than the one that you took before. So if I commit to a 20% reduction, I have to make sure that my next commitment is not a backslide, it's actually something that is more ambitious than the previous one. So that's all about the agreement itself in the mitigation section. But the agreement doesn't start until 2020. So besides the agreement, we have to have a COP decision. As you might know, the COPs every year, when they meet, they have decisions. Those decisions are the legally the outcomes of each session, and those are like the steps that countries are doing. So every year there is one set of decisions that parties approve by consensus. One of the things that this decision will have this year is that they have this agreement. And the other set of decisions is what are we doing from now till 2020. So that and there you have to have mitigation actions as well. Because right now, as you have seen probably, the UNEP publishes every year the emissions gap report. That means that if we want to put the world in a 2 degrees temperature raise, we need to make sure that the emissions trajectory goes in one way. So UNEP publishes every year how far from that trajectory we are. And now we are actually quite far behind that target. So, and that target is always set up by 2020. So we need to make sure that the actions from now till 2020 closes that gap and helps countries to raise the level of ambition and makes things actually easier after 2020. So those are the two big parts within mitigation. Finally, the last piece of this has to do with these contributions. As you might know, parties up to even like last week, some parties were presenting their national.
Sudan, I think. Yeah. There was Sudan, I think, and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So parties still are presenting what are their plans to solve climate change, or what will they do in their own countries. This is something that when they compiled the whole thing, you might have seen or might not. I'm saying things because I really don't know if you know them already, but just in case, I would just repeat them. So there were two big institutions that revise all the contributions. And what they find out is that if you compile all the efforts from the world, put them together, the world is actually targeting to 2.7 degrees of temperature rise in the most optimistic case. The other one says that we are targeting 3.5. So if we say that the safe climate allows only for a 2.0 degrees, or even, and that's the limit. That doesn't mean we are actually safe. That's actually the place where we actually have to face things that we think that we can actually face. Sorry, I hope that I make that sentence clear. But so we should be targeting for 1.5. The countries say that they aim for 2, and the current contributions are setting the target in 2.7 to 3.5. So that's not enough. So that COP decision has to make sure that all those targets that countries pull together to solve climate change are actually improved before 2020. So I will take the case of my country, Argentina. My country said we will do 15% reduction from business as usual by 2030. That is not enough. So by 2018, Argentina should say, an example, we won't do 15%, we will do 30%. So if every country does that by 2018, we will have more chances to actually stay below 2 degrees. So that's another COP decision that has to come out of Paris. Those contributions have to be improved.
So definitely the commitment should be more ambitious so that we can reach the targets that we're we are aiming for to solve the climate change issues, and that goes again in line with how much should we emit, and with the countries that are the sort of big emitters that have a big position in that area. And some of the things we've been discussing with health professionals in IFMSA is like, how can we contribute to produce healthier energy, and different measures that do exist and that we can contribute in. Perhaps Alice, would you like to share your perspectives on healthier energy? Enrique, you want to say something?
Just one final thing. You also asked me like the role of health in all this.
Oh yeah, if you want to.
So the thing is, usually, at least for national strategies and in the domestic work, health has always been a good partner of mitigation actions, especially when it comes to very dirty industries. Because sometimes what happens is that the problem is not the emissions, because CO2 goes to the atmosphere, and then you have it goes into the huge atmosphere that we have all around the world. But if you actually have a coal power plant that is burning coal, the population that is right next to it or that is near to it has direct effects on their health. Maybe not from the CO2, but they come from heavy pollutants or short-lived pollutants. I hope I mentioned it right, sorry. And that actually are directly impacting the health of the population, not only because of climate change, but from a direct dirty industry that is actually producing harm to their population. The other thing is, for instance, China. We know that China pollutes so much, and not only about climate change and their emissions, but I don't know you guys, but I've been in China once, and it's really scary. You can't really see because of the cloud of smoke that you have in the cities. And I wasn't in Beijing. I was like 150 kilometers away, and it was just the same. You couldn't see the park from the 6th floor because of the smog that was in the area. So it's not only about climate change and clean energy. It's actually about the health of that people that is living in that city that you can't see because of the amount of smoke that you have in the air. Is how much lung diseases you will have in that city because of how much you're polluting, because of the type of industries that you're having and the type of energy you're using for those industries. So you have a lot of connections in there, and I'll just give you 2 examples that I can recall now. And then you can always talk about the diseases spread, the vectors for different diseases like malaria and dengue and all stuff, even parasites and different things that could actually move around if climates move around the globe as well.
Yeah, definitely, there are lots of health co-benefits, whether that can impact health directly or indirectly. And speaking of again, healthier energy and how we can use it more wisely. Alice, perhaps if you can share your perspective on that. Yeah.
Sure. So thanks. Yeah. Enrique's kind of alluded to this already. So as you said, coal is associated with a lot of direct impacts. So lung diseases, as well as ischemic heart diseases such as heart attacks and strokes and other conditions. So what the fossil fuel industry has been doing since they've, really felt threatened by added action on climate change is they've been promoting this idea that coal is good for humanity, and even like now when there are still over 1 billion people without access to electricity, they're trying to promote the fact that, well, coal is the only way that these people who don't have electricity can have electricity and therefore have better health. This, of course, isn't the case, and it's really counterproductive to follow that argument. Renewable energy, such as wind and solar, not only will improve the health of people who are currently living near coal-fired power stations by making their air cleaner and reducing the incidence of the lung diseases and heart diseases and other health impacts, but also it will improve the health of the many people around the world who don't yet have access to energy. So access to energy is one of the key features that have brought us up to enjoying the level of health that many people around the world experience today. So allowing the people in the world that don't have electricity, allowing them to have renewable energies is one of the important ways to improve, to end poverty and to enforce sustainable development, and that's why it's listed as one of the Sustainable Development Goals. I'm not sure if I have anything else really more to add about that. If anyone else wanted to jump in.
Yeah. Maybe Isabel, if you have anything, or Kit, yeah.
I was just going to say, we, similar to this rebranding that Alice was talking about, we had a very similar sort of campaign in Canada with the oil sands. Were rebranding themselves as ethical oil, as opposed to Saudi oil, where they were trying to frame it as we don't have as many human rights abuses, which is very arguably untrue. And I mean, it's so you have to be very careful with how people rebrand their products in response to activist pressure, environmental pressure, in response to climate change. So it's definitely a big step towards when you take these actions, it's really hard to push these groups because they respond as well. But one of the things that I think sort of speaks to Enrique's point is that when you're building these coal-fired power plants, a lot of the times they're amortized and there's an economic cost benefit, and over the long term that they're looking for a return on their investment. And we can really push for health as a factor because of the health costs that aren't considered in these economic valuations. So adding that component is really important, that we're publicizing that there's not just an economic cost to shutting down these power plants earlier, but there's a health benefit that will actually outweigh at a certain point the cost of the short-run cost of shutting down some of these coal-fired power plants right away. But just my 2 cents there.
Thank you, Kate, for sharing your perspective. Isabel, would you like to share perhaps more of ideas on how can different groups act upon climate change and by adapting or mitigating, or if you can unmute yourself,
So yeah, I think there's lots and lots of ways, and definitely all the things that people have spoken about so far I think are really important. I think that there's a couple of groups that work sort of primarily at the national level that I would probably pick out as really interesting kind of models or ways of trying to kind of influence climate and energy policy from a health perspective. One of those is the Climate and Health Alliance in Australia, which Alice I know has worked with, which is run by an amazing woman called Fiona Armstrong, and they've really kind of managed, I think, to raise the health connections with climate change very powerfully in the public's mind, and also to kind of try and bring together lots of different health bodies, royal colleges, and lots of kind of more official, I guess, health groups that tend not to kind of get involved without people nudging them. And I think both Doctors for the Environment Australia and CAHA, Climate and Health Alliance, have kind of helped to push things forward in Australia. So there's actually a lot of activity going on there on the climate and health front, and quite high awareness is the sense that I get amongst at least some kind of medical professionals. And they've put out a report about coal in the Hunter Valley last year, and kind of keeping in relation to elections and things is also very important, because it was a point that Lena made. We have to make sure that we're electing the people that can actually enact the right policies that we need to protect health, and that's something that it's a huge job, not very easy to kind of really influence that much, but I think it is important to try and keep that as something that people are thinking about. In Europe, there's a group called HEAL, which is the Health and Environment Alliance, and they've done some really interesting work. So where there's been kind of a new coal plant due to be built, or where politicians are discussing sort of extending the life of the current one, they've basically been able to kind of work with people locally and find health. Am I still connected? Yeah.
Yes, you are. Yeah, we're here.
Being able to find doctors groups and patient groups and nurses. Enrique has a noise. No, I guess I'm muted. And basically sort of put out, a report, press release, to actually highlight the health cost of that, either real or planned power plant, some of the things that you were talking about, along with a sort of media strategy to actually try and get things into the press, and to try and make sure it comes to the attention of the people who are going to be making that decision. So that, I think, has been kind of quite effective both in Poland and Turkey, in terms of HEAL's work. Then in the UK, one of the things that I guess has got quite a lot of traction has been divestment, which is something I was involved in around the British Medical Association's sort of decision to, its commitment to divest last year from fossil fuels. And I think that movement will just continue to kind of gain momentum. So that's definitely something which students or young people can usefully get involved in. Kit has put a slash. I don't know what that means. Looks like it's just a cost to speak. But yeah, I think some of those things, and I think having good spokespeople and people who are kind of trained up and ready to respond, ready to write briefings or reports, if there's something important coming up policy-wise, I think that's super important. So it kind of all starts with the training and capacity building, I guess.
Great. Thank you, Isabel. That sounds really terrific, and I hope that we can engage more people through the different networks that we're holding in IFMSA, so that they can also get active in this. The last area we'll be talking about in relation to climate change is, as you can see, education and raising awareness, and how much does it have a place in the text, but also in how can we make it more tangible with as a sort of policy or sort of measures that can be taken nationally. And we know that Sabrina is very active in the field, and especially on behalf of Yongo, the constituency for youth. So perhaps you can share with us what you've done so far, and perhaps what you're looking for in COP and beyond.
Yes, sure. What is really important with this new agreement is this agreement will be the foundation for the next decade, the next years and the coming years of climate action. fighting climate action. And so I think it's really, really important to make sure in this text we're going to have all the elements, like all the important elements, and education, and more globally what we call Article 6, but also action for climate empowerment, are like the basics and the base of a climate action. So we have education, but also we have public participation, access to information, and different issues connected like that. And those issues are really important to better implement and better implement an action at the national and more local level. So it's really, really important. What we have done since the beginning of the year, so it's to make sure education is part of the text and don't move on in the text, because from a session of negotiation to another one, what we have noticed is placement of the word within the text, and so within the agreement, but also within the COP decision. And so it's really important for us to keep education in the agreement. And so what we do is we explain to negotiators the importance of education, giving some example of how education brings positive issues and can help to implement action and to make like a better action at the national and local level. Sorry. So it's mainly what we have done and what we're gonna continue to make sure, because as other explained before, like we still have the time to influence negotiator on specific topic and to explain again and push them to keep some element in the text. And is also it's what we're gonna do the coming weeks, is to continue our work to explain to negotiator the importance of keeping those issues in the text, and for that we have also like one specific day on education during the COP21. So during that day we can also highlight specific action we do on the ground as young people, how we can contribute to raise awareness on climate change and this kind of issues. So is another way to influence negotiator and to influence the text actually.
That's really good, and we hope that we can see action coming, and I guess that IFMSA will definitely join in the ride as usual and see things happening. Before we're moving on to the last round, which is mainly in relation to the different events and activities that we'll be holding on in COP21, is there anyone that would like to say anything about like any topic that we raised, or if you would like to add anything in specific? And also we're looking forward to have your questions. If you have any questions, feel free to post it on the page so that we'll be able to respond and discuss it between us. And meanwhile, yeah, the floor is yours if you didn't have the chance to speak about something that you wanted to raise.
Just wanted to ask if everyone has been in a COP before.
So we'll be having Alice and Kit during the COI, so the Conference of Youth, and then Sabrina, of course, she's based in France, so that makes sense. And I don't know about Izzy, are you coming before COP? If you can unmute yourself. Yeah.
I'm getting there on Saturday.
On Saturday.
At the end of Saturday.
Yeah.
So are you planning to stay during the COP?
I'm there for the first week.
Okay. And have others been? Are all of you staying during the COP? Or
yeah.
only for the COI?
All of us will be staying for the COP for the 2 weeks. Yeah. So it'll be 7 people. So now we have only 5 of us. And we have Samantha that you already know from Panama, and Lou from Quebec. Yeah. Just trying to count.
Yeah. Is it your first COP for all of you?
For all of us. Yeah.
Okay.
But we've been to several ADPs. Sorry.
Okay, cool. Because it's important that for you to understand some of the dynamics and try not to get lost in the whole process. The first 2 days are really crazy, especially this time. There will be a lot of presidents coming, so that's what we call like a high-level segment. But sorry, that would be a high-level day, and then the second week is the high-level segment, which is where ministers come to basically seal the deal. So you have to be sure and try to be alert on where to be. Try to identify every day the daily program, so you can actually note where the discussions are happening. You will see screens all over the place where you actually can check where meetings are happening. Something that is good to do is to go to press conferences. Sometimes you can get like in a very short time the opinions of some of the groups like Han International or like CJN or maybe some country groups as well. Usually that's only restricted for press, so if you're not press you can't get in, but sometimes you can, and sometimes that could be useful. Then of course I'm pretty sure you'll be with Yango meetings that are happening in the mornings, and so every session is always happening in between 10 and 1, and then from 3 to 6 or 3 to 4. So keep in mind those times, and then make sure that you actually if you have an iPhone, you can have the negotiations app. That's helpful to get the daily program and to have the important documents.
Not for Android? No. It's not for Android?
No.
Okay.
For some reason the UNFCCC don't like Android, but I'm trying to. I do have an Android and I can't get it. So, and then it's good to know that it's good for you not to forget to eat, because sometimes once people are running from one place to the other, so make sure you actually stop by at some point and just like eat, because that is important. And you work with health, so you know about it. And then the other agenda that would happen in the sessions is the side events. Side events are meetings that are organized in 1.5 hour slots, where anyone, especially observers, make little conferences where explaining some particular projects or initiatives or publications or something. You can only do side events if you want, because you have a full schedule from 11 a.m. till 9 p.m. of side events, one next to the other. So if you really want to, you can actually do it, but you wouldn't see anything of the negotiation. So you have to be careful what to choose and what you're according to the objective that you have. Side events are great because you can actually learn a lot of things, and you might find interesting people because you might see people presenting in side events things that are actually within your own interest. Maybe there's cases of health of this particular country in South America, or cases of why health is important in this other part of the world, and things like that are usually very helpful. But again, you can actually be lost in many side events. The good thing of side events is that you can also choose the ones that serve free food.
Yeah,
So
we
if
actually
you're going
have a Facebook group called Free Food at UNFCCC, so that kind
okay,
of
cool.
serves.
Well, can you sign me up for that one?
Sure, I can.
Great. Because if you go on a budget, that's quite useful sometimes. So
Yeah.
so that's those are like a few tips that I can think of right now, and this COP in particular is going to be huge. Like, if you have only been in ADP sessions, this is nothing like that. Security is going to be really tough. We know that security in Paris is going to be an issue as well, but you have to trust that there's a lot of things there. There's a lot of rules within the UNFCCC. Tons of people. Like, if you went to the last ADP sessions, those were meetings of 2,000 or maybe 4,000 people at the most, and at the same time in the same building. In Paris, the building has a capacity of 24,000 people. So it's like huge amount of people around you with a lot of pressure going from one place to another. So the best thing I can encourage you to do is just to keep calm and try to take your time to learn where things are, and going from one place to another, try to get familiarized with different places. And of course, I can invite you to the Cannes side event, which will happen on Monday. I think it's in the afternoon, and Cannes will actually present their position on the COP and what has to be done in the COP21. The other one is every day at 6 p.m. Cannes does this exercise that is called the fossil of the day, which is a funny acting that is actually to give a prize to the country that did the list in the negotiation that day. So if a country said, I'm not going to sign this treaty, we will give them a prize, and that's called the fossil of the day. And there's a big show and funny, and it's cool, but it has a really high political content. And the other thing is, if you want to follow what's happening every day, there are two publications that are quite good to use every day. One is the ENB, the Earth Negotiations Bulletin, which is like a compilation of exactly what happened. It's kind of like it will only tell you what happened and what countries said. Nothing really. It tries to be as neutral as possible, because they want to do is to report what happened that day. And the other one is ECO, which is produced by Cannes. And ECO is not neutral at all.
At all, yeah.
ECO has our positions and our opinions on what is our view on how the negotiations are going. So if we think, and it's funny, we try to be ironic and sarcastic about things and try to make it a little bit more palatable for people in a very serious environment as the diplomatic one. So everything tries to be funny from our side, but at the same time it has a lot of political content. So it's really good to keep track of those two things that would actually help you to follow at least a few of the things in there. So those are my comments that I wanted to provide. If this is going to be your first COP, I think those are things that are usually helpful.
Thank you for sharing these tips, Enrique, and I think we'll be using them for sure, especially in terms of like how to get oriented, how to get settled quite well. I guess that the first 2 days will be sort of hectic as the big version of the ADPs that some of us have been to, and we'll try to get scheduled and definitely will reach out for you if we need any help. Perhaps I have a question, like when is the Fossil of the Day event happening, or is it like every day happening? Can you unmute yourself, please? Yeah.
It's every day at 6 or 6:30 p.m.
Okay.
It will
And
definitely. It's all usually in a really visible place. So I don't know where exactly would be this time, but it's usually you will find out.
And are the CAN meetings happening in the blue zone, or is it outside?
No, it's always inside in the official venue.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. Thank you. Perhaps if the people who have been previously to the COP, Izzy and Sabrina, would like to share any sort of tips and tricks or advices or anything in particular.
Well, first I think is as I mentioned earlier. So UNGO organized each year what we call the Conference of Youth, and this year to gather more young people and to give the opportunity for young people who are already in Paris and those who gonna come later or not at all, and to give this feeling of all together. We have decided to have like the main event in Paris, and also like 7 other local COI around the world, and they're going to be connected during 3 days. So that this event will happen at the end of the week, so from Thursday to Saturday. And initially, and so what we do is to give the opportunity for young people to go to learn more how the COP is working, and like basic knowledge on how just to not to be lost during the first day, because as Enrique said, it's kind of really complicated, like for the first time, to follow everything, because we're gonna have like the ADP session, but in the parallel we're gonna have like other different room of negotiation, and also the subsidiary chair, so the SBI and SEPSTA in the same time. So it's can you hear me?
Yes, we do, but you're frozen, so I don't know.
Oh.
It's just
I don't know. I think the connection is bad or something.
It's fine.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So yeah, so we're gonna have just to briefly conclude. What is really important is to try to follow a maximum the Conference of Youth, and try to interact with other young people to better learn how a COP is working, and what they have to know the day, like, and every day as other constituency, we're gonna have like each morning a meeting. So during this meeting, mainly what we do is to exchange on what's happened the day before and what we want to highlight during the day and stuff like that. So it's really important to also follow this session on the morning. So this can perspective and a big view of the program of the day, and what is also really important to
Sabrina?
You won't be lost. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we do. So yeah, you were talking about the Yongo meetings, and of course we'll be there as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And regarding the Conference of Youth, so the COI IFMSA will be organizing 2 workshops, and we're very glad for this opportunity. So we'll be organizing one on climate change and health, and that will be Kit and Alice that will be organizing it, and then we're having another session on project management, and it will be Anlu from the delegation, and Marwa who's an IFMSA official. So will be happy to take part actively in the event, and also heading the Yongo Health Working Group. Also, regarding the news updates that Enrique mentioned, these are available online, so we can also share it with you guys, and also on through our newsletter. So it will be also an opportunity to see the big picture on what is happening during the COP.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps Izzy, if you can tell us briefly about the Climate and Health Summit. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And also just to add that we'll be putting out some regular kind of analyses of what's happening in the negotiations, and kind of from a health point of view, trying to analyze particular developments from that side. So that's something that some of you might be interested in, and also might want to contribute to, perhaps. So just let us know if that's something you're interested in. And we'll also be organising sort of regular coordination meetings. The plan is for one every second day on the Tuesday, Thursday, and Sundays. The Climate and Health Summit is happening on the Saturday in the middle. It's a kind of full day program with a mix of plenary sessions and sort of more interactive breakouts. Like it. And yeah, basically, I'm hoping that most of you will have sort of seen it before, but I'll send you the link here.
The whole delegation is registered, actually. So.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. But maybe Enrique would be interested in Sabrina. I don't know if you're.
Yeah. So it's free to attend if you want to register, and it's basically going to kind of cover. The theme is engaging with health in a post-2015 world. We're really sort of looking at how health messages and evidence from public health can move the conversation on climate change forward. So we'll have both health professionals, negotiators, and also communications.
Izzy? Sort of lost you. So yeah, so we'll be sharing with you the agenda for the Climate and Health Summit. Just waiting for Izzy to go back. I don't know.
Oh, my back.
Yeah, you are.
So I'm not sure what you heard, but really I was just saying it should be hopefully a kind of really stimulating discussion with lots of different speakers, different backgrounds and experience. So I hope that you guys will be able to come.
Yeah.
Really good to have you there.
Thank you, Izzy. And then we'll be also represented at the Healthy Energy side event that will be organized by HIL, the organization that Izzy was talking about, and the National Medical Association of France, and IFMSA will be speaking about medical students in action in regards to climate change and healthy energy, and I'll be speaking on behalf of IFMSA there, and I think Izzy will be co-chairing the panel, right?
Yes.
Right. Then IFMSA will be also represented during a side event on women's empowerment and the place of climate change and gender. Perhaps, Benedetta, would you like to tell us more about it, since you'll be speaking there? You're still unmuted.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
We are working on it, and also we are proud to collaborate and to be part of this side event thanks to the Taiwan Association. I'm also in contact with Italian Climate Network, because there is an Italian association and ONG that is involved in climate change, and there's a girl that is in the study, how is in English? Science, no, sorry, I have some problem.
It's fine, no worries.
Political science can be, I don't know. And so we are, okay, we are working on it, and we are waiting for you if you want to join us.
Great. So it's also a good opportunity to promote to share the impact of climate change on health and gender as well. And we'll be also taking part in different activities and mainly partnering with the WHO and different activities that they'll be organizing. Perhaps, Alice, if you would like to tell us a bit about it.
Certainly. So the major WHO event is taking place on the 8th of December. So that's heading towards the end of the second week. So this will be opened by our Director General, Margaret Chan, and it will feature a number of health ministers, as well as the Mayor of France will be there, and a number of different experts in the different sectors looking at policy and energy and looking at the negotiations. And the whole, like similar to the summit and other events, the whole focus is on looking at the recognition of health in the negotiation. WHO is also featuring having speakers in a number of other events, including the summit on the 5th of December, as well as the Healthcare Without Harm event, which I don't think has been mentioned yet, but is on looking at the health sector, looking more at the sustainability of hospitals, which is taking place on the 4th, as well as many others, and WHO is also participating in parliamentary meetings and more of those high-level closed discussions too. Yeah.
Thank you, Alice. So we're looking forward to very productive outcomes that we can also take part in. So there's not questions left yet, so perhaps we shall end the webinar by sharing our last thoughts prior to COP21, and I hope that we'll be meeting live as well, the whole group, and perhaps sharing more of our perspectives in how this will be looking like. So perhaps starting with Lina, if you'd like to go ahead. Just final thoughts, yeah.
Could you repeat the question, sorry?
Final thoughts before the end of the webinar. Anything that you're looking for prior to COP21?
Well, I think most things have been covered. I'm just really anxious now to get started, and for any IFMSA or people out there watching, just to please leave comments, and we'll be happy to bring them with us to Paris. And well, we'll keep in touch, and I hope you will follow us from Paris.
Great. And we'll be also sharing our involvement in the different side events. So if you have any input or anything in particular that you want us to address, feel free to send us a message or post on our Facebook event. Benedetta, are you with us? Okay, maybe not anymore. Izzy, would you like to share your final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of I don't have anything particular else to add. I'm just going to be kind of trying to help finalize various things really in the run-up to COP. I'm really looking forward to meeting you all once we're out in Paris. And I don't think there's anything kind of very specific that we have, but we'll be sharing some information kind of around our climate, our health campaign, which I know we've kind of spoken about a little bit, but not that much, but that should hopefully be quite useful in terms of communications and also knowing which events are on, because that's one of the things.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us today, Izzy.
I might head off if that's all right.
Sabrina, would you like to go ahead? Final thoughts before
Well, I don't know really, because we cover a lot of topics today. But if I have only word to say, would be actually 2 words. It's really important to build bridges between our all topics for the COP21, but also beyond, because Paris is just a step on the road to the future world we want to design, and it's really important to build bridges and to exchange about who we are and what is our vision and perspective, and from different parts of the world and on different topics, and it's really, really important to understand each other and to build project and synergy together. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Sabrina. And yeah, as you said, things are very much interlinked, and this is why we wanted to bring them on the table and see that this is not just a health issue or just an education issue, or like everything is sort of interlinked in how we shall engage in the area. And thank you for joining us, Sabrina. Enrique, if you can share with us. Yeah.
Well, basically, thank you for inviting me. I know that for some of you, it might be the first COP, and like I had my first COP 10, 11 years ago, and I know that the first COP, I usually say it doesn't count because it's like you get lost, you don't understand much. The fact that you actually went into sessionals is a really good way to actually have to prepare yourself better. So I wouldn't say that in your case in that sense. I think it still is a great opportunity to see how things are in this diplomatic world. I think it's really good to see new people coming all the time, and if you do have any question or anything that you might want to know, just feel free to send me a message, and I'm happy to reply. I know that this will be a very hectic time, so feel free to send me once or twice. So if it's something that you really want to understand or really want to know or that I can help, like I'm happy to contribute. And if I don't know, I will definitely put you in touch with someone that does.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric, and thank you for accepting our invitation. Alice, would you like to perhaps pitch in?
Yeah,
yes,
sure. So like everyone else has said already, I'm really looking forward to getting there and getting involved and finding my way around. Specifically for me, I have been working from the Australian side for a number of years now, and Enrique mentioned the Fossil of the Day before, and Australia received many. In fact, we won Fossil of the Year last year, which is quite embarrassing. And we're still, despite my best efforts and the best efforts of so many organisations in Australia, we're still doing pretty poorly at the moment. So I guess a personal goal for me and for Australians is for Australia to not be so bad this year, and improve and be a part of the actual negotiations, not a barrier to them, and obviously to achieve that new agreement that is consistent with avoiding catastrophic climate change. So yeah.
Thank you, Alice. I'm not sure if we will have Benedetta. I think she sort of left or not available, or is she? But I think, yeah, this will mark the end of this webinar. It was really a great moment to listen to all of your experiences and perspectives on how do things happening or should be happening, and especially this international diversity where we see that things might change, or in terms of the impact, but also in terms of commitments and how we're looking forward to seeing things. And we hope that, yeah, we'll be achieving some of our objectives, hopefully for the COP21 and beyond. And yeah, wishing you a very nice flight or trip to Paris, except for Sabrina. But yeah, and yeah, have a nice time until seeing you in COP21. So thank you everyone for joining the meeting, and if you have any question left, feel free to post it on our event. Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.